Hello, hello. What's going on, y'all? Set this up right. All right. I wanted to sit outside for a minute, talk about a few things. Um, I think the last video that I made was very depressing, to say the least, to be honest. The last like half a year or so, yeah, a lot has happened, I suppose. Like, a lot is going on. I think the last 2 months of last year in 2022, definitely the ball got rolling. We'll say that. I think all my pieces was knocked on the floor. I had to put the puzzle back together, so to speak. Um, there's a lot of things that I wasn't happy with. I had to make a lot of change, and honestly, a lot of that change was, I guess, thrusted on me unexpectedly. You could say. Uh, mm, this is raw. This is raw for sure. This is very raw. I'm not even gonna stop the recording. I'm gonna just keep it going. But I think there's a lot of things that I wanted to address in these videos because I'm good now. I'm good. Like I'm enjoying life. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's still ups and downs, of course, for everybody. Everybody's journey is a struggle, but you know, things are good. I'm making positive change nowadays. Um, but I just wanted to go through because that last video was kind of crazy, ain't gonna lie. Like, I was in a low point for sure. Like, it was tough. It was very tough. But I think the three things that I wanted to like really like cover, like go over very briefly. I'm not gonna go into detail about any of these things, but I feel like a lot of these things can help not only myself just kind of get my feelings out there and like help y'all understand like what I was going through, but it also can serve for like what not to do, or at least just some guidance. You're not the only one going through this type shit. But those three things were one, my relationships, two, my, I guess we'll call it my dependency on entertainment in general, media in general, and my higher purpose, like my end goals, as so to speak. So I think the biggest one, especially in the last 6 months, was definitely my relationships. There's been a lot of change when it comes to the people I've been talking to, uh, the way I talk to people, the way I interact with people, who I'm interacting with, on what levels I'm interacting with them. In general, I think a lot of my closer relationships over the last like half a year or so, I've kind of, some have strengthened and some have ceased to be. And although it was very difficult going through a lot of these changes, I think overall, despite how painful it was, and honestly, I don't, there's no right or wrong in this universe, but with how seemingly meaningless, I suppose, a lot of these changes were, I still believe that it was in general a good thing that they happened. So, on the note of relationships, I feel like there's a lot that I need to say. I think in the last 6 months or so, I've come to realize that there are a lot of people in the world that are fun to be around. There are people that you can love genuinely and have a great time around, but they are also people that may not need to be that person in your life. And I'm gonna explain what I mean by that because I'm not telling y'all to like go and cut off all your closest friends or nothing like that. I think for a very long time I had a lot of different people in my life that I cared pretty dearly for, but I'm starting to realize more and more as time passes that they are not the kind of people that I need to be interacting with or if I do decide to interact with, I need to address a lot of issues, because I think for me a year ago, me 2 years ago, they were fine. They were great. They were great friends. Like, for that person that I used to be, it was a great thing to have these people around me. But, like anyone does, I've changed, and I've changed a considerable amount, at least mentally, when it comes to regards to mental health. So nowadays, I realize for the plan that I want to, accomplish, for the things that I want to do, these people in my life may not have been the most beneficial, both for my mental health, my productivity, and just for, in general, our relationship health. Because I speak on my side quite a bit, but when we have these issues where it constantly needs to, I feel like I need to constantly address relationships and like how we're going about things, how I feel about things, even when things are not wrong or like bad. I think that has an impact on, both sides of the relationship. It's not just for me. And of course, some people are going to feel more emotional, I'll say, about some things than others. I think a lot of my relationships were very indicative of that fact. Sometimes it was me being very emotional, very over dramatic at times, very difficult to please, I suppose, because my standards are very high. Let me just do this real quick. This is getting water on it. But then others, and other relationships where I feel like I was making positive change, uh, the other person would feel like this is too much, or it's over dramatic, or they would act more emotionally. And this is very difficult to talk about, because there's no like one answer that fixes everything. There's no, I don't know, there's no lesson, I suppose. No, that's not true. There's always a lesson to come out of things, but there's just no one thing that's gonna fix any of this. But over the years, I've learned who I should be around, who makes a genuine impact on both of our growth, because no relationship, I believe, is a healthy one when it is a one-sided relationship. So, and I mean friends by this, friends, family, and significant others, I suppose, in that vein of things. Because one-sided relationships, for if you're like a teacher, that's your job. I understand that it's a little different, but for a friendship, when a relationship is one-sided, and one side is growing a lot more from the other, but the other isn't receiving any sort of like growth or satisfaction from what is happening to the other, it's just issues are bound to wound up. I think realizing that was really difficult, because I, in general, what I would do in a lot of these relationships is I would be like a motherly figure almost, where, because they didn't have any, at least to my knowledge, I don't know these people's lives as much as I used to, but at the time, I didn't believe that a lot of these people had like healthy outlets for their emotional problems. And because at the time, at least, like I was learning to deal with these emotions a lot better, and I wanted to share that knowledge. I wanted to understand, and I wanted the people around me to be better with me. I wanted to grow with me. I would always kind of, I would sacrifice my time and my mental health to help these people understand. Or if I wasn't sacrificing myself, I would just be fighting a constant uphill battle, where I would be giving my all to make sure that this person that I really love and appreciate gets what they need. But of course, when you're doing that, you're not going to be getting a lot in return besides seeing that person hopefully in the best case scenario improve. And a lot of those relationships, when I think it's okay to have one or two people, maybe, there's always going to be that person. There's no real one answer for relationships like that. But maybe one or two people, one, two or three people, I don't know, where it's just occasionally you talk to them, occasionally you give them some game, maybe there's just that younger person in your life that you give them some game. You understand that they're not where you are mentally or emotionally, and you just want to give them a helping hand. That's okay every once in a while. But for at least in my case, when 99% of your relationships are that same relationship where I was giving up my mental and emotional energy, it wasn't working. It just wasn't working. I was stressed. I was becoming a person that I didn't really care for all that much. I was doing a lot of things that I probably wouldn't do nowadays. I did a lot of things that I'm not gonna say I regret. I don't think I regretted very much, because at the end of the day, I didn't commit any crimes. I didn't murder anybody. I didn't do anything crazy. I was just becoming a person I didn't like. I looked in the mirror and I told myself, like, yeah, this isn't the person that I wanted to be. So the last 6 months has been a lot of that going through my head, a lot of just reevaluating my relationships and friendships. And with that reevaluation comes a lot of communication. And I think with difficult communication like that, it's just bound to bring up a lot of emotion. Um, so I've lost, I don't want to say I've lost. I've separated from a lot of these relationships where I felt like that. I've changed a lot of the relationships that I felt like that. I've been trying to reestablish the way that I interact with certain people and why I interact with them. And I think that is like a good segue into this next thing, where I was extremely dependent on any sort of entertainment, where just being with myself for like 5 minutes would be so dreading that I would have to put on a song or watch a YouTube video. Like, no matter what I was doing, because I was in like such a high stress situation dealing with the kinds of people that gave me a lot of that emotional stress, I was just constantly turning to this entertainment. And it was very, very, very abundant that a lot of these same people that I was trying to like nurse back to health almost were doing the same things. We were all distracting ourselves constantly with entertainment. So when you have a situation where there's a lot of emotional stress, there's a lot of pent up emotional trauma in the air, and instead of taking a second to like really address it, and we're just constantly playing games, we're like distracting ourselves with like the extremes of emotion. So like, I think a good example is like you scrolling through Twitter, and of course Twitter has a plethora of content you can consume at way too quick of a pace. So you can go from like witnessing a news story about how thousands of people have just died to going to a meme that is the funniest meme that you've ever seen on the planet, and going through these extreme emotions constantly throughout your daily life when you're already dealing with a lot of stress. It numbs your brain. Like, truly, it your tolerance for that kind of extreme emotion gets to the point to where it's so high that nothing phases you, and your brain is so numb that you can't feasibly change the people that you want to change. And then on top of that, you can't even heal yourself. You can't heal, change for the better for yourself. Like, the things that should make you feel sad, or the things that should make you feel happy, they don't, because you're so numb to that kind of stuff. And that's one of those things that I really needed to change in my life. So I'm gonna say that that was probably one of the harder things, because when you decide, like, okay, and don't get me wrong, I don't believe that social media in general is, like, at its very very core, a bad thing. I think its benefits are nice when you can have it in moderation, like anything else. Like, of course, cake is it was amazing. Cake can be great, but if you're having cake every single day, every hour of the day, you're gonna be sick of cake. It's gonna be really unhealthy. You're gonna be obese. It's not gonna be good. So, of course, like anything else, social media needs to be in moderation. And if you can't have it in moderation, then I think having it or not having it at all is probably the better choice. But in these friend groups where we would distract ourselves, it was the norm to distract ourselves and step away from these emotional issues by viewing more and more content. When you decide to step away from that content and try to change the way you do things, there's going to be conflict. There's going to be pushback, because all of a sudden, those same games, those same videos, those same shows and movies that you used to watch with these people all the time is something that you're no longer doing as often. It's something that even if it ended up being something that is good for you, where you can connect with somebody by watching more and more content, it was just, I don't even know. It was just difficult. It was difficult. People will always dislike change if it's abrupt, if they don't see the benefit in it. So one change for myself was a one positive change for myself, rather, what could be a very negative one for someone else. And I think over the last 6 months, I've been doing a lot to kind of cope with that, I suppose. I've, as someone that is an artist as well, and I'm constantly looking for new sources of inspiration. It was very difficult. Like, I had to cut out Twitter. Like, I, when I say it was a problem before, like, this entertainment was a problem. Like, even to this day, it's like the fight's not over. Like, it's still going. Like, there's not a day where I wake up and I don't immediately think of YouTube. Like, it's so rooted in my subconscious that I have to wake up, watch a YouTube video, and then I can get on with my day. I literally, on my iPad, when I wake up, I have set limits to myself, because I know if I wake up and start watching YouTube, it's the day easily easily gets away with you, and 1 hour turns into 2 hours, and 2 hours turns into 3 hours, and it's like you don't even realize how much time and mental energy you're wasting by just consuming that abundance of content, and like consuming an abundance of information that you're not even able to make use of. So, excuse me. That was a big change that I really needed to make. So nowadays, I try to cut out all social media from my diet. I try not to view anything. So, of course, I'm an artist, and to make most of my money, I do actually have to, like, use these social media platforms. And that is, like, the extent of how I've decided to use these social media platforms, where unless I am, like, unless I am working and posting something of value to these sites, I am not allowing myself to be on these websites. And that has helped quite a bit, honestly. Like, not constantly being distracted by any sort of media has helped immeasurably. I think just being able to sit down, uh, take a second to breathe and let your mind rest is, like, it's more freeing than you probably know. And it's like, it's difficult, because actually, even just the other day, like, I was talking about the the difficulty of being bored. I think being bored is one of those things where no one wants to be bored. No one like goes out of their way to like try to be bored. But I think the reason you should is because you need that time. That time where you're bored and you're not being stimulated constantly. That's when your brain goes into a normal state of being. That's when you kind of get a reset. You get a fresh idea of what you're thinking, what you want in life, what you're going for. There's a lot of benefits from just stepping away from that content because realistically, we're not supposed to human beings are not supposed to consume this much information. Like it's absurd how much information like you can really go through just by scrolling Twitter and YouTube and games, like all of these things. And when I say this much information and content, like granted this isn't all like healthy informative content. Like I think it's one thing if you're like, I don't know, you're studying for college and you're looking for a 2 hour lecture on how to do something better or how to study better or how to further your goals. But it's another thing when you're watching 5 hours of a Elden Ring YouTuber play through a game in a variety of different ways. Like our brains are just not meant to consume that amount of content. And because we consume that much content, we don't know what to do with it. What ends up happening is we consume that much content, and then because that content serves no value outside of further entertaining ourselves, we just continue to consume more and more of it. It's a little bit absurd. It's a little bit absurd. And I think I think a lot. It's hilarious. But that is a big reason why I needed to cut out a lot of these sources of entertainment. So, and a big reason actually, this is a good segue into the next thing. A good reason why I felt like it was very, very necessary for me to take these steps of consuming less content and taking more time to understand what I am, who I am, what I want to be, who I want to be around, and who the people I actually care about on a deeper level than being their therapist is my goals, what I wanted to do in my life. I think it was so easy. It was so easy to just, when I was distracting myself constantly, there was like, it was like I was living a fake life almost, where the goals that I wanted to accomplish were real, but the ways that I went about accomplishing them were so incredibly like it felt forged almost, where I was like tricking myself into believing like this is the way that I want to do things, and it wasn't the right way. And when I say uh, tricking myself, because I think I have to elaborate on that. This is a good example. Here's a good analogy for you. I wanted to be, and I still do want to be a professional artist. What I want to do is draw in general. And I think while I was consuming an abundance of content, to get to that goal, what I would do is I would constantly compare myself to understand like, okay, this is how I'm gonna measure my goal making. And of course, no artist should do this because it's fucking stupid. But in order to understand like where I was in comparison to people that have made it as quote unquote professional artists, I would compare myself constantly. I would always be comparing myself. I would always be putting my content in places where they didn't need to be. And I was like venturing into places where I'm not going to say I probably didn't need to be, but I didn't want to be. That wasn't ultimately my goal, but I was distracting myself so much that I felt like that's where I wanted to be because I just wanted to keep being distracted. I wanted to keep being stimulated to the point to where I just eventually I crumbled, I cracked. So nowadays I have now that I've like taken time to understand what I want to do, who I want to be, and how I'm gonna go about it, I've 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 gone about things in a much more efficient way, where I want to be an artist now. So instead of venturing into communities that I don't really care for, I stick to my niche. I stick to what I enjoy doing. I draw what I want to do, and then I go from there. I want to travel, and travel is not cheap. Travel is very difficult for someone that doesn't, primarily work in a high value or high skilled field. So I decided, all right, well, I want to travel. I like healing people. I might as well get paid for it and travel while I do that. So I decided to become a psychologist. I'm going to college for psychology. And uh, I'm a lot of these journeys are these are end goals, of course. It's not gonna just happen out of the blue. There's gonna be a lot of hurdles. I'm gonna have a lot of difficulties. But now that I feel like I'm not able to be so dependent, now that my emotions aren't so dependent on constantly being stimulated by something, I feel like I can deal with those hurdles. I feel like I can actually get over those hurdles and accomplish the things that I want to accomplish without having to be held down, really held down, without having a constant weight or being scared of myself. Like, I think that was a lot of the big issues. I was scared of existing to myself. But now that I've cut that stuff out, I can be me to the truest extent. And with that being said, I still consume content. Like, I'm still a 21-year-old that lives in the age of the internet, so I still consume content, and I'm not ashamed of that or anything. I think I really, really, really love the expression everything in moderation. And I believe, because now that I'm making conscious efforts to like properly moderate how much I'm doing, how much content I'm consuming, things have been so much better. I'm not constantly overstimulated. I'm actually able to enjoy the content that I want to enjoy. And on top of that, the content that was not really giving me any value before, but was just stimulating me, I don't even enjoy anymore. A lot of the content that's just brainless nonsense that I can go without, I don't enjoy anymore. And I feel like it's a great change, because nowadays the content I consume is a lot more healthy, where I'm like I'm literally going through and listening to psychology lectures and studying why the brain does things it does, and why we're happy, how food affects us, how to have a healthy and balanced diet, how to exercise properly. And I'm able to take that information, actually apply it to my life, because I'm not so constantly overwhelmed with content. And it's a good feeling, and it's a very good feeling. Um, and of course, like, I don't want to demonize that nonsense content, because it's funny. Like, we like that nonsense content for a reason. Like, sometimes you just want to watch someone be goofy for 20 minutes, and it's like it doesn't matter if they're providing you value or not. You just want to see someone be stupid. You want to have fun. You want to let go for a minute, and that's okay. And I think I still consume content like that from time to time. Um, but I think nowadays I really wanted to make this video to explain how much better things have gotten, and uh, how much I appreciate the journey. And even though I have changed and separated and distanced myself from a lot of people and things, in general, I think it was for the better. And it's not over either, of course. I don't think it's ever going to be over. I'm always going to have difficulties with people, but I know the more difficulties I have and the more stressful situations I'm going to have to endure, and the healthier ways I endure it, the easier it's gonna become. And these problems won't be problems anymore. At least they won't be as jarring as they used to be. They won't be as like life stopping as they used to be, because a minor issue before, it would stop my life for 2 months. I wouldn't be able to properly function for 2 months. I wouldn't be able to get anything done for 2 months. But nowadays, something difficult and jarring happens today, it is a moment. It is a moment of something bad happening, and the rest of my day, like I still have hours of the rest of my day to still address because I'm properly dealing with these emotions, and it's a good feeling. It is a very good feeling. So that's where I've been. That's what I've been dealing with in the last like 6 months or so. I really, when I woke up this morning, I really wanted to kind of put um excuse me, I really wanted to put my feelings on the table, just let let the world know, really let myself know what's been happening, just summarizing everything that's been going on, and confirming to myself that I am making positive change. And I really do feel like I am making positive change, even if there will always be more difficulties. uh, I really, yeah. And I think because I've made these positive changes, for the people that decide that they want to be in a better state of mind as well, they will also benefit from all of this positive change. And whether it's directly or indirectly, like everyone will benefit from these positive changes. When you are feeling healthy, and I'm talking about you, when you are feeling healthy, the people around you will feel that, and they will be more inclined to be healthy, or they'll try to do the opposite. And if they are, maybe you don't need to be around that person, or maybe things need to change in that relationship. And there's no end. That's it. That's it. I don't need to say nothing else. I feel like I put my piece on the table, man. That's all it is. Life is good. I'm out here sitting in my backyard, just chilling. I'm just chilling. I'm talking about my feelings, man. It's good. It's a good feeling. All right. I'm out this piece. Y'all have a good one. I'm gonna probably edit this a little bit, but I'm not gonna go crazy. This is like my just raw me out on the table. So y'all enjoy, man. Y'all enjoy. I'll see y'all maybe a next time. We'll see. I don't know.